Um, so I'm gonna be doing a little editing session today. So yesterday I shot this ram skull, this 3D printed ram skull, and did a paint trip. Ongoing series with my paint trips. So if you haven't seen that, check that work out. You can find that at my Instagram or on my website. But let's kind of go through these. So there's a bunch of images, pretty much the same shot, but with different paint drips. So the way that it's falling off the skull, the textures and everything. So we're going to be essentially taking all of those pieces and selecting the best ones, the best drips, and combining it to our main image. I'm going to start off with our base image. So if we go down here, you can see that there's just tons of the same image, just minute differences. So we go down. I think it's going to be the very bottom. Okay. So we're going to start off with the skull with no paint. And I'm going to select. I need to edit in RAW. So I need to select all of these. And we're going to do the same edit to that image. So I'm not going to be doing this one right now. So I'm going to select all these and then also select this one. Open up in RAW. Okay, so I'm going to now just do a basic edit of and apply it to all of these because I want them to all have the same consistency. So when I bring them into Photoshop, they'll have the same look. So I don't have to worry about the minute differences of light and color. They should all be the same. I shot them all the same white balance, same exposure, same everything. So they shouldn't have any differences. If it does, then I'll address it in Photoshop. But for right now, I'm just gonna do a base edit. So right now I think I'm just gonna brighten it up and add in contrast. So my idea is to make the background just a bit darker, and then I think I'm gonna increase the highlights of the background, but that's gonna be a little difficult because we don't have um because we don't want to like increase the highlights on the skull. So we're gonna have to probably mask that out and do that in Photoshop. So I'm not gonna worry about that right now. So I'm just gonna focus on the skull. And I want to show as much detail. Zoom in there a little bit. I'm gonna add a little bit more texture. And I'm gonna find my black point. And then my highlights. Just where it's starting to peak. The shadows can go down a little bit more on the skull. Now that I'm zooming in, I can see that we still have detail. I'm not losing any of the shadows, which is great. I want to have this a very contrasty image. Make sure we're just getting that black point. Okay. Now vibrancy. Do I want to... I know this came out, the gold paint came out a little more yellowish, so I'm gonna address that in Photoshop because if I do it in RAW, it's going to affect the background color, and I really like the color of the background. So we're gonna select all of that and change it in Photoshop. But right now, I think I'm just going to just increase the vibrancy. No, I'm gonna increase the saturation by 7. There we go. Now I'm not gonna worry about the curvature. I'm not gonna be heavily into the raw editing. I like how it came out of camera. So a lot of this is going to be actually in Photoshop, very heavy. So we're going to be doing the pen tool, and I'm going to be selecting out the skull. It's going to be a process, but it should be fun. So I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to apply. So I'm going to sync settings to all the images. You know what? Let's work. I'm going to do my crop right now, actually, because they're all the same. There wasn't much shifting of the camera. It was actually on tripod, just the same shot over and over again. So we don't have to worry about aligning it. So we can crop it. So I'm going to bring it in because I want it to be right in the middle. And I'm going to align the background because my idea is I'm going to have to crop out the skull anyway, or cut out the skull anyways. So let's see, those lined up. So the background will probably at some point be filled in. So I can shift the skull because I think it might be a little too high on the right. So I can bring that down a little bit more. So I'm gonna cut the skull out and then rotate it. And I'm gonna have to do that regardless because the skull was rocking during the shoot because it's on fishing line, and so when the paint drip hit, it would shift and it would start rocking. So I know I'm gonna have to deal with that. So it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge on that aspect, but I'll get through it. But my main goal is to have perfect symmetry with that background. That is pretty important to the shot. So what I actually might do, I might change the geometry of this to make sure we have perfect symmetry. So I'm going to take the geometry and the guided lines, and I'm going to find areas that should be perfectly aligned with each other. Okay, and that warped it a little bit, and then I'm going to line that up with the bottom. And we're just squaring it up. In fact, actually, I'm going to cancel these two. The horizontal lines, looks like the only, I could bring it up there. And then there's some right here. So let's actually go. It's better to do it from further out than the middle. So I'm going to take this line and then bring it down here. Same thing on the right. Boom. We're going to go across. Let's see, we have it right here. Go to this point. I think this will work. If we go to the same area right there. Cool. That looks pretty feathered, or not feathered. That looks pretty square. Okay, so now I can apply it to all of the images. So we're gonna select geometry to make sure that it is getting getting that effect going across all the images. So we do bring those in. At least the background is going to be squared up. We might still have to make adjustments. It's the real world. Nothing's perfect. So we're gonna apply those. And I'm not gonna open him because it's just gonna overload my computer. So I'm just gonna hit done, and it's gonna save the those raw edits. But I'm gonna start off with the skull with no paint, and we're gonna cut out this skull And then we're going to bring in the other skulls with the drips, and then we're going to cut the drips out and apply it to this skull. I like to work from the base skull and build up the paint drips. So I'm going to open up this in Photoshop. We'll just bring that in RAW real quick. Double check. Okay, looks great. And I'm going to open this as a smart object. All right, so smart objects allows me to just reopen this up into RAW. Let's say like I've been doing edits, and then I can just open up in RAW and affect the RAW edit. So just a little tip there. Okay, so right now I'm going to focus on separating the skull from the background, and I'm going to copy this so that way we always have a one of the layers that is the original. So we're never manipulating the original, even if it's a smart object. So now I'm going to use the pen tool, and then I'm just going to go all the way around. So much fun. My wrist is going to be dead. So I actually, if you're familiar with the pen tool at all, you may have seen the color cyan, or cyan, cyan. That's by default. You can actually alter the color of your pen tool line. It really helps out. I actually had to change it because when I was working on my the cyan skull paint drip, I could not see the line for the life of me. And so I found out that you can swap that over, and magenta really pops out when I'm just doing normal work. It screams at you. So it's really nice to have that more vibrant. But you can change your color to whatever you want. So I'm gonna cut off a little bit. I'm gonna round out the clean up some of the edges just with a pen tool while I'm doing it. And the background I'm gonna have to fix regardless, so that's not gonna be an issue. So I will be taking the parts out that I'm missing. And this part is where it gets a little bit difficult when it's black on black. Don't add, there we go. Okay, so it's a little bit of a highlight there. And I'm just going to cut off that string. We're not going to even worry about that. A lot of people would have started off, cleaning up the image from like dust, and so like you'd be doing your spot healing brush tool. I find that to be a little backwards because if I plan to cut this out, I know I'm gonna have to, once I cut it out, if I had cleaned it up ahead of time and then cut it out, I'd have to clean it up again because there's always going to be some stuff I'm cutting out from the background that's going to be left on the background. It's just better this way. But not all images are the same. pen tool really like takes so much time to do, but it is so worth it. Every time I've used a alternative method of cutting out an image, it just never it just looks awful comparatively to the pen tool. And it takes time to really develop your skills with the pen tool, but totally worth it. I think the tool that works the best in Photoshop, besides the pen tool, is one of the newer tools, the object selection tool. Does a relatively good job understanding with their algorithm system that what the image looks like, and it's finding an object as opposed to looking for differences within pixels. So, like the other selection tools are really looking for differences of saturation and contrast. So, if you have a very contrasty image, it's going to do relatively good. So, like, let's say the skull was on white, it would probably most of the selection tools would work out. But because this is black on black, absolutely not. It would have a horrible time. I did see that there is a new um, website out there that you pay subscription wise, and it has an algorithm to select out images. I literally saw this morning, and I'm kind of curious to see how well it does. I'm always on the lookout for alternative methods for more speediness, but I when it comes down to it, I always just tend to go to the pen tool just because I've literally used selection tools. I've done channel like going through the channel and uh going individually like having the selection of tool. It just always there's always something wrong with it, and it takes just as much time to fix those problems than it is just to use the pen tool. So I'm eager to see how the algorithm works and see if it does it cut out the line pretty evenly, or does it leave artifacts along the object's line. So I'll probably give that a try for my next shoot on white, because it looks like it's really developed for e-commerce, and so stuff on white. So if that's the case, if it works out pretty well, who knows? I might be work might be a lot easier. But I've had my hesitations. I very doubt that it's gonna work out. It's just a really hard thing for the computer to understand what's in an image, because it's only looking at pixels. It's only looking at, individual um, dots. It doesn't understand that this is like it doesn't understand that what's in this image is a ram skull. It just sees differences of contrast, differences of saturation, differences of color. And that's one thing that the human eye has over computers. Get into a difficult area. Can't really see that edge too well. There we go. Yeah, so this is pretty much the boring part. Once I get through cutting all this out, and we're gonna work on the background, we're gonna clean that all up, and then we're going to start getting the paint in. But this is the tedious, mindless part that every photographer seems to hate. I love the pen tool. I get to shut my brain off and just follow the lines. So this ram skull was actually 3D printed. Did a relatively good job. I actually really was surprised how well my 3D printer could print the detail. And I for some reason I love utilizing 3D printing with my photography. I'm looking to do a lot more with it. I mean, the first project was my the skull, the first paint drip skull, which was a human skull. And so now I'm kind of been interested. It kind of got me addicted to taking these organic objects and actually making them a 3D printable images that I can replicate over and over again. So it's pretty awesome. But this was actually separated into, I think, 6 different pieces. And I was using wood filament. If you can see, where is that line? I think it's hidden. I think it is hidden. So there is, I think I did a good job hiding it. There's a split in the ram's horn that I used because I was using wood filament. I could use a like a for woodworking, like fill, and it smoothed out pretty well, and I got texture on there I could barely notice. I've had a lot of people think that this was a real skull when I first started posting images of the 3D print, which is pretty cool because it shows a lot about the detail. But when you get up close, you can start seeing the 3D printed lines, and we're gonna go in there, kind of clean that up, make that look a little more realistic. And you can see that definitely right here. But for some reason, I feel like this adds a little bit to that maybe like a weathered look, like it's been in the desert for a long period of time. If you didn't know it was a 3D printed image, 3D printed skull, you probably would not see those lines as a 3D printed line. Just getting a little bit too fast with it. I know if I start getting a little too fast with a pen tool, I lose detail. I always have to like catch myself because it's a tedious thing to do, and so part of me wants to like rush it to get to the next part, but I know if I start rushing it, it's going to start off over here with a lot of detail, and then over here everything starts getting smooth, and it just doesn't really work. When you, I mean, like, average person, if you're not pixel sniping, you're not gonna see that stuff. But for you pixel snipers out there, you'll see it. And I've never been a photographer to say, oh, I don't use Photoshop. I don't edit my photos. I don't manipulate them. I stand proud with I manipulate the hell out of my images. And that's just another skill set. That is a thing I am proud of, that I can to create images that are almost impossible to make in real life. So I don't like to limit myself to the real world when it comes to like physics and like gravity. Like I like to suspend my objects in a way that kind of makes you think. It makes you like, wait, what? How is that doing that? Um, and that all really started with back in the day. I did a ink ink and water series, and this was back when no one else was doing it. Now you can see it, like cell phone company or commercials are using the ink and water method. And there was one other photographer that at the same time started doing that process with me. Anyways, but so I would take those images and I'd keep changing the rotation, changing um the way that the ink did not look like it was being poured straight down. It wants to plume out. It goes down and plumes out. I was flipping it around. I was altering the way that you would perceive it, and because it was so vibrant and so contrasty, it was really hard for people to grasp what they were looking at. And a lot of people are like, "Is this even photography? How did you do this?" And you would get close and you can see all the fine detail, and yeah, the detail was there. So it kind of it confused and intrigued people, and I thought that was like where I got that fuel, that drive of like I love like I love having that like confusion, and like just someone can't stop looking at it, trying to figure it out. Because if you've got like a normal photo, it's good, maybe a family portrait or something. Someone spends like maybe 10 seconds looking at it. But when you are confused, when you are trying to figure out what it is you are looking at it and why you like looking at it, you spend like minutes, 10 minutes. I still today have people who I did not tell what it was, still ask me like, "What did you do? What was that?" And so I did a gallery, and the opening, I just stood by my work. I didn't say anything to anybody. I would wait for them to ask, and so I did this game with every single person, and it kept them engaged. They would ask me like, "What is this? Like, what are you what's going on here? Like, is this what material are you using?" I was like, "You tell me. If you get it right, I'll let you know if you're right." So I kind of kept my audience guessing the entire time, and they would keep coming back. They would think about it, they'd walk away, look at other work, but they'd come back and ask me more. And I thought that was like a great feeling, because I wasn't necessarily going into it to have this communication with people. I was there to just showcase my work, but in that moment I realized, oh, this is more powerful than I originally imagined. Um, when it comes to networking and engaging with your audience, because every image you put out there, you're showcasing it to an audience. And so like I love having that engagement with my audience. All right. We're at the end. Oh wait. Let's fix that. Get that bar out of there and then boop. All right. And then so I'm going to make a selection. I always like to do, I don't know what's that too. I like to do 0.3. So it's not going to be a perfect straight line. Nothing is. In real life, nothing is. There's all, even if it's very sharp, the image is very sharp, you're gonna have a feather. And that's just how naturally the sensor captures real objects. If I'm gonna make that a complete perfect line, a curved line, it looks cut out. So I always do just a tiny, tiny little feather. I'm gonna push OK, and I'm gonna mask this off. Boom, background's gone. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to actually disable this layer mask. But I'm gonna keep this one. So now I'm gonna turn this off, and we're gonna get rid of this skull. Actually, let's enable, and I'm going to invert it, the mask. So now we have the background layer. I'm actually gonna call this background. And I'm gonna label this RAM skull no paint. And I'm gonna highlight this as let's go blue on this. And then background, I'll just label this red. Okay. So now we can, because I did that feather and I inverted, now we're gonna have this little highlight around the edge. I'm not gonna worry about that because now we're going to essentially cut out this skull from the background, which I mean we did. We're gonna actually like select this area and bring it in. So we're gonna clean up those edges, so that way I'm able to rotate the skull without messing with the background. So if I did this, transform, rotate. So we're gonna rotate our skull to, let's bring a level down. If I rotate it, see how the background's still cut out. So we're gonna have to fix that, which is fine. Boom. So that looks pretty level. I don't think that's gonna be level. It's just because it's, you know, organic thing. It's not gonna be perfect. Also, before I forget, I need to cut out these areas. So let's go back into the mask, and I'm going to use the pen tool to cut out the eyes and the nostrils. Come on. This is a little hard. I think it's right there. Going to make a selection, and I'm going to paint in black because I'm applying it to my layer mask. I'm going to take this one out too. Cool. selection, paint in black. Goodbye. All right, now we got to cut out this and we should be good to go. Oh, you know what? Crap. I just realized I probably should have saved or done the rotation of the ram skull a little bit later because I forget we need to bring in the paint drips, and so if I did that, I'm gonna have to rotate every single one of them. So I'm gonna rotate the skull back once I am done with this. Make selection, paint in black, boom. Okay, so that's all cut out. Cool. And because just gonna have to rotate it. Just gonna have to manually rotate it. Transform, rotate. And I'm gonna have to do. That looks pretty. That looks like it where it was before. I'm gonna have to rotate it regardless because the other shots, as I was pouring, the ram skull was moving in position. So there are going to be slight differences. So I'm going to have to do some alignment either way. But for right now, it just makes that was a dramatic rotation. So to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to do that last. So I'll select all all the paint layers are going to be in different layers. So I'll select them all and rotate all of them, probably as a group. We'll see. So we're gonna bring in the other images now. Oh, no. I'm going to work on the background right now. That's right. Work on the background. In fact, I want to double check. Oh, I did. Oh, okay. I forgot that I actually did this. And why aren't you working? Oh, and before I forget, apply. I'm going to save this. I'm going to move this because I probably have some stuff that's NDA sensitive I can't show, so do it on another monitor. Photography, product, no, not product. Personal work. Yep. And we're gonna save this in a new folder called edit. And save. Boom. Okay, so that's saved. Let's go back to bridge, and I'm going to select this one, and then we're going to open up one of the top ones and then apply those settings. We're probably going to have to readjust the geometry of the back, and we're going to have to make a symmetry. I think this is just going to be a simpler solution. I shot this on purpose for this reason, and I didn't realize I actually did export it when I was working on it. So, oh, we're going to go to geometry. Oh, actually, let me apply these settings first. We did not do the geometry because I think it was a different aspect ratio. Not aspect ratio, at different dimensions for the other skull. So I'm going to take this point and drag it all the way over here. Boom. Make this all aligned. This over here. And then this point, whoops, in there real close. This point to this point. Square it all up. Whoops, that is not what I wanted. This point. Ugh. Stop. To that point. Boom. That looks all squared up. And realistically, this is where it's going to be cropped probably where this is going to be in the middle. So that will work out. So I'm going to open this up as a smart object. And I'm just going to select it, copy merge, bring this over, could put it in the back. Now I have more control with the detail of the well, the position one and also the sharpness, because if we looked at the original one, it was a bit out of focus, which is what I want, but I also want to have control over that. So if we looked at, how did I have this positioned? You know what, let's align it. I do like the position that it had, so we might have to blow this up a tiny bit, which is fine. We're not going to have any pixelization since I plan on blurring it a little bit to have that blur effect. I just want to have control over that. So there we go. Okay, so it's now somewhat aligned with the background, the original background. So there we go. But I really wanted to get some detail in the skull's eye, but I do like the position it's in the frame. So I might actually, I'm gonna close this one out. We're gonna have to fix that, which is fine. Let's bring this down a little bit. I want to have symmetry. And one thing I noticed that I didn't want was those eyes. I feel like that's very distracting if I kept them like that. This is the point where I was a little torn. I was torn with the idea of having the eyes with the gold in the background, but then it becomes too, like, that's what you're gonna see. You're so highly focused on those eyes. But if we bring it towards the black, then we completely lose it. Decisions. I don't want them to be black pits. You know what I might do? I might keep it right here. And I might just try to bring in some highlights right here to shape the eye. Maybe if I do it right here. I have a little bit of cleanup to do right here, by the way. You know what I can do? I can just darken that. I know what I'm gonna do with that. But I might just, once I get the paint layers down, I'll probably work these eyes with highlights and shadows, a new layer for that. I think it is less like in your face, like almost demonic looking. That like the demonic part was not my intention at all. So if I kept the eyes beaming with color, I think it'd just be too much. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so let's start. We worked on the background because I added the different layer in there, but let's clean up the background while we're here. Because I do have a little bit of, oops, a little bit of stuff that needs to be repaired. We'll just clean it up. Little air bubbles. This is a vinyl backdrop, or not backdrop, a vinyl wallpaper. And so when you're applying it, sometimes you get some air bubbles, and some scratches, but this one laid down pretty well. Just had a few spots I noticed earlier. And let's fix this right here. So what I am going to do, go straight down the middle. Did you not do it? Why didn't you do it? And because this is a mirror image, I'm just going to copy merge. Boom. And then flip horizontal. It should be cut right there. Oh, I see what's going on. I see what's going on. Maybe that's not what I want. Let's just drag this over here. And try to align it. And to match it, I'm just going to feather. So I'm going to use the gradient tool, and I'm just going to feather this this layer. Not like that. Feather right when selected. Boom. Okay, perfect. Maybe I just cut it off a little. There we go. So instead of cleaning all those lines up, actually I'm gonna fix that in a second. It kind of blended that into it, so you can't really tell. Perfect. I like that. I like when a plan worked. Okay, and then I'm because I changed the somewhat light of that, you're gonna spot those corrections I made. So I'm just going in there and clean that up. I just got rid of that layer of the corrections. Perfect. And then let's work on the color right now. Let's just fix this background. I want to have this a lot more contrast. But I want to keep my highlights. I wanted to have like some mood to it. And maybe I do like that it has a gradient from like dark, and then in the middle is the highlights. But I kind of like, maybe I want to have that a little more more reflective, more lit up. So I'm just gonna do that for that section. So let's go brighter. And I'm gonna go back into the layer styles, and then underlying layer, just bring down the effect on the black areas. So I just want it where it's not affecting the gold. And then I'm gonna use a layer mask and paint in black in the layer mask with a gradient. So I'm just going to go to that point. The same thing on top. Boom. So it makes it pop a little bit more. And let's work on the color a little bit. I think it's on the I think it's on the red side though. It's like a little bit too orange. So I'm going to select my reds and just kind of work them a little bit. There we go. Want to be in the more yellow area, and then do I want more vibrancy or saturation? Maybe just a little bit, just a tiny bit. That's gonna match our gold paint a little bit more. I just felt like even in person it was looking too too warm or too red. So we'll work with that. Okay, so now I remember that let's turn that layer back on. There we go. I remember that the background, the wallpaper wasn't pure black. What it was like this really dark blue. So just to make sure that's not going to come through, I'm going to select my blues in the hue and saturation layer, and I'm just going to drop them. So, and then we're going to go lightness just down. Even though it may not be showing right now, you know, if it goes to print, that might be a thing. So I just want to make sure that those blacks are black. So that should be good. All right, so I'm going to select all of my background layer. Actually, let's even go, boom. I'm going to group them. And group that. And then, you know what? Why not? I don't normally do it, but nah. Well, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to, yeah, I'll label, I'll color. We're going to make this red. Boom. So we know that's the background. Okay, so now let's work on the skull. So first off, let's get rid of the strings. No, actually no, because we're gonna do that last. We have to add the paint in first. So let's bring in some of the other skulls. So I'm gonna go back to bridge and let's look closely at some of these strips. So actually, to make this a little easier, I'm going to, because I do have a different rotation I'll probably do later. So I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to label them second, and I'm just going to select that filter so they are all selected. And I don't see any of the other images, so when we're going through them, we're not being distracted with the other images. So let's look at the first one and then go. This should be, yeah, let's just start going through them all. Okay, so this one, I do like that it has, I like this strip and I like this strip right here. That's going to be nice to add. So we're going to label, no, we're going to rate this. Do I want to rate this? Or do I just want to approve? We're going to approve. We'll just do color. Okay. This one has a really nice drop right here. Approved. Just keep. Oh, this one. Yep. Now I know this is in the same position as the other drip, but I can flip it if I wanted to. I can add that drip to somewhere else. It's not a huge deal. So I'm going to approve it. So you may notice I actually got some movement on here, some blurriness. I'll show you how I work around that. But I do like this line, so I'm gonna approve that. Label approve. I do like the texture. I do like this right here. So we're gonna approve this one. And if I remember correctly, yeah, this one I waited quite a bit to get this more definition. I was waiting for the paint to uh, thin out because it was kind of thick, and I wanted to get some more detail on the skull, or on the skull, and also the horns. So this one definitely approved. So I think we got our selections here. We have 6 total. Let's see what we can work with. We can always go back and select the others. So this is where I'm going to, let's see, select all. Just bring them into raw just to make sure. Yep, all they're edited. Great. Okay. So I'm going to open all these. So I think I'm going to work backwards. I think I'm going to work with this one where it has the detail. And let's bring it to our original image. I'm going to bring this all the way forward. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to now lower the opacity and align the skull. And it doesn't have to be pixel perfect because we are going to be selecting part of this out. So, and the paint is different, but yeah, I try to get as close as possible. And so what was happening, it was dipping back and forth. So we can see that it's having an effect right here and right here. But that's not my main focus. My main focus is the ram horns on top. For this, I really want to get the paint in there. So we can also just use the warp tool to force it to align. Okay, I think You see how much rotation there is? Like, if you look at this line right here, so it was like going back and forth. It's okay. Because we're going to cut out all of this paint and apply it to the background. So we're not looking at, I'm not focused so much on the details of this skull because I'm more focused on the paint itself. So let's get in there and guess what time it is. It's time for pencil. Yeah, pencil. And I'm not gonna worry about the gold paint because once I have it all selected how I like it, I'm going to apply edits to just the paints. So they're going to be in multiple layers, but I'm going to do a group edit to those so that way there's consistency with the color as opposed to editing individually. And that's a pain. So I'm not going to do it. This area I may have to mess around with. But we'll deal with it later. My main focus is just to get it separated. So once we're done getting all the paint layers, the paint's gonna be more of this color as opposed to yellow. It just gold acrylic paint, in my opinion, always off. Just never looks like gold. It's really hard. And it's the same thing with skin pigment. It's like your perception of what flesh color looks like is completely, it's like completely off. Like you can't really get a flesh tone because there's different colors within normal flesh. So it always looks off because of our understanding of looking at normal skin. Like it doesn't look like our skin isn't one color. And the same thing with gold. If we look at if you look at actual gold, there is differences within the metal itself. It's not just one color. And there's a lot of texture in it too. But we're gonna do our best. If you came here for pen tool action, you are in the right place. If you are not, I am totally sorry. This is totally pen tool heavy. A lot of people think that editing photos is just in Lightroom. Uh-uh. And I remember that there's a little area in one of the other photos that has a drip right here that I absolutely loved. So we're going to grab that later. But right now we're going to work on this. This is going to be... it's going to be a day. Don't like that line. I wish I could play some music and entertain you guys beyond this, but that's how you get videos kicked off, so that's no fun. So this has just got to be as fun as a Bob Ross video. Happy trees. Happy skulls. Happy skulls. Now I just want to listen to the Misfits. I want your skulls. So this should be the last big, large piece of selection that I need to make. The rest are going to be relatively small, so just bear with me. Can only go as fast as this. So while I am doing the pen tool, I'm also making corrections to the edge. So I'm starting to cut off like areas that I don't like. Like I feel like this is a little rough, so I'm just going to go around it and make it smooth. Now that's something I wouldn't want to do on the actual skull. I actually like showed a lot more detail, but when it comes to a fluid thing, I feel like I can get away with it. It looks a little more natural. I feel like the ridges show more defect of the skull than it does of the paint. Man, that grid really made that shine. If you wanted to, if you haven't checked it out, if you want to check out the shoot, I did a live shoot yesterday. It's up on YouTube. If you look up J Sutton Photo on YouTube, it's over there. Was not able to stream it with the Twitch viewers and Facebook at the same time. I can only do that from my home. Bad internet at the studio. The internet provider in San Diego likes to charge a lot of money to small businesses for internet. No, thank you. So we're a little past the halfway point. Still got some more to go. But little by little, we're making progress. And nothing here is set in stone. Like, I can always go back, because I'm going to be making the selection and masking it off, so I can always go back and fix. Let's say I missed a spot, or I wasn't happy with a certain area, I can always go back and clean it up. Edit smartly, not quickly. Well, I guess the way that I am doing it can save a lot of time. It's your own perspective. for this area. Let's smooth that out. And we're going to smooth all that out. Smooth all this out. I don't like that. And then I want to have a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. So this is going to be a little speedier right here because of all that texture. I'm just going to cut it all out. We're going to smooth out the lines. There we go. And I want to have a point. This is probably all going to change too. I don't necessarily like how it was laying on the skull. So I'm not too married with it. I'm just okay with it. What to do right here? I don't like that. I'm just gonna keep it there to remind myself to clean that up in this layer once it's selected. Or you know what? I can just do it right now. I'll just do it right now. Clean that up. Boom. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a nice little drop. So much pen tool. Should probably like prepare some like topics to talk about when doing this because it's boring. It is boring. But it's important. It's like this is how the really creative stuff gets done. And this is essentially what all of the apps are trying to achieve one day of like you don't have to go through this process. But I don't see that ever happening to, like, you know, a high detail. Like, you can get away with it with, like, on the phone, but when you're, like, making prints, when you're making images for large scale prints, you can't. There's no algorithm out there strong enough or smart enough to do this. It takes just the human eye to make these judgment calls. Because there's no obvious straight line when you get to the pixels. And sometimes you gotta live within the pixels to cut this stuff out. But, I'm cutting that out. I don't like that. But, what was I gonna say? It's totally worth it. Like, once you get all the work done, it's really rewarding. And guess what? No one's ever gonna know you did this. Well, you guys do. You guys know I'm doing this. If you're watching this video, you know this. But hopefully this is good realization of what some photographers have to do to get their images edited, and it's a whole process. You know, it's not just an image only takes like 5 seconds to edit. And a lot of people understand like the basic editing software, so like, you know, Lightroom and other even on the phone, it's kind of the same situation where you're changing the exposure, saturation. You might be changing the color, but you're not doing like a lot of people aren't cutting out different images and doing composite imaging. And a lot of photography is composite imaging once you get into the fine arts, or when you're going looking at photos even on for product photography. If you're looking at like Amazon, there's a lot of composites. Even if you can't even see, it's like, you know, we're taking images for the highlights and shadows and bring them together. So it's just there's just a lot within it. So I should do a whole like video just me complaining about e-commerce photography. That's a whole day of talking, but I'm not gonna bore you guys. I'll stop talking about boring product photography. Okay, we are almost done. Almost there. My hand is not really happy right now, but you know, it's totally worth it. So once we get to the end, once we select it all out, we're probably going to have to, I'm going to make some cuts out of the current paint, and also we're probably going to have to manipulate the shape of the paint, because if you remember looking at the images, the skull was rocking, so it's not going to line up perfectly. So we're gonna have to go in there and just manipulate it so that way it looks natural. So we're not having like paint floating in the air, or just things aren't lining up. So we're just gonna have to line it a little bit more. Let's drag this down a little bit more. I'm gonna cut off that a little bit, and look at that. We are at the end. Whew! Okay. Okay, so I gotta get this next, and maybe that. So I'm gonna make selection, and I'm going to make a mask. And now, so this is on the original blank skull now. So now we can move the paint individually. So let's start working this. So we can see right here, it's overlapping. So I'm going to cut this part out, but I want to make sure that up here it's having nice coverage. So looks pretty good. I think I'm going to round that out. It looks good. All we have to do is cut that out. That looks, is that floating? That's floating. That's floating. Okay, so let's actually, before I start cutting it out, we're gonna warp tool it. Come on. Transform warp. And I'm gonna try to align it a little bit differently. See if we can bring part of that up. From the bottom. How's the top? Top is looking pretty good. And I might just do a little correction in there to make it not float. This looks all good. This is an issue. So for this, we are, I'm actually gonna just go, I got it. I'm just gonna make a copy of this. Copy, no, just normal copy. Copy. So I want to keep, no, copy merge, I guess. There we go. I want to make a copy. I'm going to line it back up because I want to use the liquefy tool, but not affect that layer. Oops. First off, I want to have this image in there. So now we can use the liquefy tool. Show background. Okay. So now I'm just going to manually get it to fit. So I'm just pushing it in a little bit more to wrap around the skull. There we go. And then while I'm here, I'll just push this up a tiny bit more. Boom. And in fact, I'll probably do that right here. Do the same here. We still may need to cut that out a little bit more, but get to it when we get to it. I'm gonna move this a little bit more over here. You know, this is just small, minute things. Cover that. Bring that up a little bit more. I think I'm gonna bring this up just a bit while I'm here. Really wanted to see that nose. I think, you know, and right here I can just bring this in. Let's just bring this. I wanted to give this a little more space, the paint. So we're just gonna push that in. That way we just don't have a face full of paint. I'm actually going to clean up this line a little bit more. Round that out a tiny bit more. I think I'm going to round this one out too. Okay, let's see how that did. Push OK. Not too bad. I don't hate it. Let's bring back the background. There we go. Get rid of that one. Yeah, it's looking, that's pretty much there. How I was going to cut out too. So we just did it with the liquify tool. I do like, I wanted to add in more separation here, which that did. And I wanted to showcase this area just a tiny bit more. So that's looking pretty good. We don't obviously see that this was cut out, and it's falling down on the ram skull pretty naturally. So that looks good. Okay, so now I want to address there was lines from the drip that's missing. So if we go back to, if we disable this layer, let's pull these out from this layer. So I'm going to close out our cutout layer. So now I am, oh yeah, I am pulling this area, and I'm gonna get, I don't think I'm gonna grab this strip. I'm gonna grab this strip and this strip and this strip right here. Actually, let's go through the other ones really quick. Oh, you know what? That looks pretty nice. Can I combine? I think I might grab it from this one. Okay, so this is where we start having to make good judgment calls on our drips. So I'm going to bring in this one. And make sure it's aligned. So I really want to capture that. I think I might, I don't like how it's totally angled. Like it's not straight down. So I once I get it cut out, I might warp tool it and align it straight down. But first we need to cut it out. So let's cut that out. And this is the only, can I not move it? Only one from this image I'm going to take. So I'm just going to align it right there. And start cutting away. All right, so okay, and then so you can see there is a little bit of a motion blur. It's because my strobes, they're not instantaneous, and you'll get that with most strobes and shutters. It's because there's a shutter lag a little bit, and so if you had quicker speed lights, this would solve issues. It's something I need to invest in. More expensive lights have a high speed sync, and the Alien Bees don't. So if I had a high speed sync, meaning that it it is a the shutter and the light are aligned perfectly, so you can get higher shutter speeds. But when you have a light that doesn't have a high speed, meaning it could be slightly off. So you can't necessarily get like a shutter speed of 250 without having seeing the shutter. You'll capture that shutter because of the light is being shown at a dark time. So you might have seen it if you've messed around with strobes before. But this is one of the effects. It's something I need to address. But this is just a simple cut out that this is just my method of solving that issue. I just make the shape move from there. I can go into details a little bit more about high speed sync, but yeah, it gets a little complicated. Um, because I don't have the visuals to show. If I had the visuals, it could be a little more apparent. But yeah, it's a little hard to describe. But I thought that required a little definition of why there was a little bit of a blur right there. And done. All right, so make that selection. And I'm going to mask that off. And now I'm going to disable layer mask because now I want to select this bad boy right here. Look at that. Again, same problem. We're just going to curve it out and make that sharpness. So we're essentially, because this is slightly blurred, we are sharpening the paint drip with the curve tool because the majority of the actual detail of this shape is pigment and it doesn't really have too much texture, so we can get away with it. Now if I was dropping like an actual object with detail, this process would not work because you'll still get blurriness within that detail. but because I'm working with a, something that is already somewhat, uh, you know, blur, um, it works out. Boom. Make selection. We're gonna paint in white. Enable layer mask. There we go. And look how sharp that is. We don't have any of that blur. So now I want, because it is doing that curve look, I want to straighten it out a little bit. So I'm gonna warp tool this. So I'm gonna go to transform, edit warp, and I'm just gonna drag that out to straighten it. And because I'm starting to get a lot wonkier, I think the tool to use is going to be the liquify tool, because then I can just grab that and drag it as opposed to dragging a corner. So right now I'm just going to disable all these layers, and I'm going to make a copy, and I'm going to line that back up. Because my main thing is I want to keep this anchor point the same. Like this is on, like, attached to the horns. So now I'm going to disable this layer, get that to here. Now I'm going to go to liquify, and we're going to just go with a big brush, because with a bigger brush I can keep I'm not pulling the pixels as much, so you're not going to have the weird effect where it doesn't look realistic. So from here, I'm just going to drag it over just to straighten it out a little bit more, not too much. We're going to push OK. And if we look now, the difference, we just moved it over a few, like, I don't know, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, I don't know. Okay, and then so when you bring it back in, I don't want that layer. You know what, this layer is giving me problems. I am going to bring it down there. So let's bring it back. There we go. So now it's straightened out. If I really wanted to, I can also manipulate this one by itself, but we'll deal with it in a bit if I don't like it. By the end of this, if it's starting to bug me, I'll address it. So there is one where it has a nice drip right here. So let's go find that. There it is. Off the bat, I got it. So let's copy this and bring it in. Copy merge. Boom. And I'm not even going to align it right now because we're just going to cut this sucker out. And again, same issue. We're having a little bit of roundness or a blurriness to the bottom. So we're just going to sharpen it with our pen tool. Boom. Okay, and make the selection, and we are going to mask it. And it is floating in midair, which is fine. So actually, this one, it's on the top layer. I'm actually going to bring this below because it's actually supposed to be below, behind the skull. So I'm going to actually drag that and bring it down behind the ram skull with no paint. And now I'm going to position it a bit higher. I'm going to get rid of these guides. I don't need them right now. So I'm going to go back and just bring that up. And now we can see it's going behind the skull. So we can get it to a position that we like. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Cool. Okay. I think we need a little more paint on this side. Let's go find one. If I remember, okay, there it is. So I remember there was a drip over here that I liked. So I'm gonna select that, copy merge. So now we're kind of going faster. Now that we have all the hard work done, now it's just selection and finding the areas that we like, and we can manipulate the paint drips relatively easy. So yeah, it looks pretty good. We're gonna put that there. Boom. So we're gonna cut that out. It's gonna blend in relatively well right up here. So I'm actually going to follow that curve. And we might actually get rid of this part. This part's on the original image. So actually I'm going to bring this up so I can see what I'm doing. And make that smooth. Get rid of some of these areas I don't like. Now I'm seeing that this area is actually a lot further out. So I'm going to bring it out. Siri, go away. I hate that, like, whenever I say something close to Siri, my phone likes to go off. Didn't that time, though. Oops, make selection. There we go, and we're going to select that out. Okay, so it's not perfect, but now we can start manipulating it. So I want to blend those together. So maybe we just correct it. So I'm just gonna blend it together. Don't like that line. So we're actually gonna make this a little bit thicker. Why are you giving me problems? Just let me do the thing. Actually, let's do a clone. Let's force it. We're gonna force it. So I'm gonna select an area and we're just gonna no, it's not it. That's not it either. And I know if I go the healing brush tool, we're gonna have some weird effects once we get to this area. So we'll give it a try. This is the area. It's a little difficult. There's not much room to pull from. There we go. Okay, we got it. We got it. We good. We good. So now, ooh, I do not like that edge. Let's fix this edge right here. What's going on here? I'm just gonna do a quick little painting in white because it is on a mask. Okay, so let's just blend this area. Yeah. Is that the right move? Probably not, but okay. So maybe I got it. So we're gonna go to this paint layer. Just gonna click on it, find it, and we're going to mask this off. We're gonna just paint in black. It's gonna go away forever. Go away. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Just leave it. There we go. And I'm gonna paint in white on this layer mask for the paint drip to bring that edge. I just feel like it was too clean. Boom. There we go. Looks a little more natural. A little more bulge in that paint drip. I like that. Cool. I'm looking for something for this. I feel like we need to have a little more balance. There needs to be something here. So let's look for that. I might add in this edge. I like that. Oh, there it is. That's the edge I'm looking for. I'm looking for that drip. But yeah, I like that drip. Just bring that in. So same process. We're just kind of aligning it. We're gonna cut out part of it. It's not gonna be perfect. I think what I'm actually gonna do is that I think I'm just gonna cut it out and blend it into the drip that is starting there. So we're gonna kind of make it look like it's coming from the original one. So just cut this area out, and we'll probably have to do a little cleanup. Okay, so we're gonna make a mask of that. Okay, so yeah, we just have to do a little bit of cleanup. We can probably just feather the layer mask with black. So I'm gonna just blend it in. Blending it in. There we go. So we got a little more detail than we want. Kind of like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so still want something right here. I need something right here. Just want to have that balance. Did I even have anything on there? I did. There's one right here. Let's go back to original images really quick. I'm gonna put no label. Let's see if we can. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so that was the final image, meaning I didn't. Okay, so there actually isn't really. Oh, that's the final. The final's down here. What am I talking about? Ugh. I'm not too happy with it right there. So maybe we just pull. Really wish it was down here. How did that? Okay, so that came through. Maybe. Okay, so if we look at that, it actually does stop. It doesn't go further. Okay, so maybe I just pull this one. Actually, I thought I didn't like it. I don't like the combination of this and this. So let's actually pull from this one. I think I have it already open, but just for the ease. Okay, line it up. And again, we are just going to cut out this strip, so I'm not too worried about the alignment. We are getting close to the final image. So next we're going to be focusing on the color. And then maybe we're going to add in just a little bit of effect to kind of tie it all together. Mix selection. Percent. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so I know that this is a paint layer, so we're gonna make that yellow. We're gonna make these yellow. Yeah, this is yellow too. Okay, so we can kind of figure out what's a paint strip and what's the skull. We have the background. Okay, cool. So I know that I need to deal with the little areas like this. So I'm going to create a new layer. No, I'm going to hue and saturation, and I'm going to clip it to our ram skull, and I'm gonna make that completely black and white. And so that really took care of those little areas. But to make sure, I'm gonna go to reds and just darken that. Yeah, that works. Maybe not. Maybe I won't do that. Keep it right here. What I'm gonna do, because I don't really want to deal with that. You know what? No, it looks like a. We're gonna make a new clipping mask with the levels, and we're gonna bring down the highlights. And now I'm gonna mask it all off. So paint in black for the mask, and then we're just gonna go in there, paint in the whites right there to blend it in a little bit more. There's a little area right here. And there's a little bit of a trick, and we'll see if it works. See if I miss it right here. I don't like that. It just stands out too much. It's not really doing. Oh, there we go. Just feather it in. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to double click on it, pull up the layer styles, and I'm going to bring up the shadows until that starts to disappear. And bring it back down. Like I want to keep it black, but I don't want to affect it too much. I want to bring back the detail of the shadows. So there we go. So now we don't have those weird edges. Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any more. That because it was on the right side, there isn't really highlights, but on the left side behind it does. So if it was on the right side and I was having those highlights, it just doesn't look natural. Okay, let's actually work on, before I get into it all, I just want to bring out the shape of the strip. I know I said it wasn't bugging me, but now it's bugging me. Let's bring out this shape. It is little wonky. So a smaller brush, and then we're just going to work the edge. Shape it a little bit more. There we go. There we go. That's a nice drop. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Let's now focus on the color of the paint. So I'm going to select everything but the background. So everything below the background is not going to be affected because the background has gold and all I'm going to be changing is the yellow. So I'm going to group all of this. Whoops, I missed one. I'm going to group them all. And I'm going to apply a hue saturation above it. And immediately I'm going to clip it to this group. Now I'm going to take my yellows and I'm going to change the color. And I'm going to try to match gold. You know what? Give me 1 second. Let me pull up gold is really difficult. Like I just typed in gold color. Look, like tons of different options. So I mean, people, it's either more yellow or more reds. It's very gold is very subjective. So I think to make things a little more easier, I'm gonna go based upon. Oops. Let's make a new layer. See if I can just paste it in there. The Pantone gold color. So we're going to try to match it to Pantone Nugget Gold. Okay. So go back to our yellows. And there's still a bit of warmth in there. So I'm going to affect the reds a little bit more. Try to bring them back to a new, more neutral color. Not too much. Because the reds are really having some detail there. And I don't want to go that dark. I actually like it a bit lighter. It's pretty close. I mean, it's not exact. But I'm looking at the hue really. It's close. It's brighter definitely, but I think it's getting pretty close. I think let's get in there a little bit more. Yeah, I think I'm into that. Okay. And if we look, like that was way more yellow comparatively to this. Now let's try to match that a little more with the background. So now I'm going to do the same thing with our background. So let's make a hue saturation layer, clip it to the background, and I'm going to pull that back up because I think there's still just too much red in our background. I think it's just too orange. So I'm going to affect the reds, and I'm going to try to, let's go to our yellows. Again, it's not going to be same vibrancy. If we wanted to, then I could just crank the vibrancy. I really want to have that more of a subtle gold because we are reflecting light. So that means that it's not going to be as punchy because we have a sheen of white light. So it's going to change the saturation. Cool. So now that I'm looking at with the paint on it, I kind of want to darken the skull, and this is great. So originally we started off with the skull with no paint on it, and this gives us the ability to start altering the skull without altering the paint. And I just want to cut some of those highlights, or I make it a little more contrasty. I do like the highlights. I think it does show detail. But I think that overall, it's starting to kind of just become a gray. I really want it to be a little more punchier with the contrast. So let's find our skull. We're going to make a curve adjustment layer, and it's going to be clipped to it. And then we're just going to just darken it, maybe add in a little more highlights. And I think, and I'm looking really right here. I'm planning on masking off. Actually, that looks pretty good. I'm planning on masking off this area because I do believe we are missing quite a bit right here. So I just think it's a little bit too dark, and I think it's a little bit too dark over here, and then right here. So let's now. I think we're at a point where I can start working on the adjustments of detail. So like the string, and maybe I don't like how the catch lights are. So I'm gonna make a new. This should all be in a folder. Okay, yep, it is. Okay, so I'm gonna make a new layer, and we're gonna use the spot healing brush tool, and we're just gonna start cleaning some stuff up. So like these little air bubbles, not a huge fan of. Normally there's a lot more, but this paint did pretty well when it comes to air bubbles. I do like this sort of texture on it. But I think the highlight's kind of ruining it. So just figure it out in just a second. I might do a curve, try to cut that light, bring out that texture a little bit more. We'll see. Let's clean up this line. Get rid of the string. some of these air bubbles, one thing at a time. Like, I don't like this line. I might... Focus on the air bubbles. Let's clean up this edge. It's a little rough. Sorry for, hey chat, sorry for, ignoring you. I was just in my own zone. Hey Bryce. Reminds me of logo. That's pretty cool. And Polka, yeah, gold is pretty difficult. It's very subjective. And I'm very surprised, like, there isn't, like, one standard for gold. If you look at many different swatches of gold, they're just, like, it's just so vast. And quite annoying. But in reality, in my opinion, gold is somewhat of a boring color. Like, when you apply it to a painting, when you try to get the actual natural gold, it doesn't really stand out as much as you would expect it to. So I think that's why a lot of people alter it, and that's why you have so many different variations of gold. And because, like, in the grand scheme of everything, it kind of looks brown. So brown's kind of boring. So I always try to, like, get it close and then alter it. So, like, this is just a bit more, has a little more vibrance in lightness, just to help it stand out. Okay, so I think it's starting to look pretty good. Don't like that. I guess let's look at some of these lines, clean up some of the actual skull, maybe some of the dust, some of this texture. I could drive myself insane with just, like, finding every little detail that I don't want. Or I can just do a rough pass and say, good enough, because no one else will see it except you guys. Because I'm pointing it out to you guys. Clean up some of these lines so it doesn't appear to be a 3D printed object. It's looking a little, kind of misty here. Okay, so I need to address that. This isn't really lining up. So where are you? Think you are this layer. Yep, here we go. I'm actually just gonna use the let's go liquefy. Let's liquefy it. Yeah. Get out of here. My... Yeah, I think it's good. There we go. Okay, that looks a little more natural. Yeah, so I was working a couple years ago. I was working for Samsung with they were coming out with new circuit boards or a new board for the like CPU for their phones. And so they had my buddy who was the photographer had these really detailed um macro shots of all the boards and like every detail. Well, they weren't the final product and they were prototype boards, so they had been kind of like worked to death with their employees. It was just dust everywhere, just junk. Like literally, there's like nastiness on these boards, and they're like, "Well, we want this all cleaned up, and we're going to display it in our main office." I think it was like 10 feet high, like prints. So I had to clean up every bit of dust, every bit of gunk, every little bit, and also it drove me insane. Each image probably took me a good 6 hours to complete. It was a nasty job. Okay, so I'm going to address this right now. I think I'm pretty happy with the details. I think we're getting pretty close to the end. Might fix. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to fix it. That is starting to bug me. Um, you know what? The paint is all here. The skull is here too. At the very beginning, I said that I was going to rotate the entire skull later on, so I'm going to do that right now. I'm just going to group it all, and I'm going to just rotate because I want it to the horns to align with that line. And then I want to position it, let's see, in the middle, but looks like I want to be in the middle. You know, it's more important to be in the middle of the background for this because I think I'm going to crop it in just a tad. That'll be good. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to worry about the this little edge. This is really starting to bug me. And while I'm here, might as well just cut this little nugget out. Want to round it off. I don't like that it's kind of like poking out. Not entirely sure why it is, but Just get rid of it. And I feel like just bring just a tad bit. I feel like if you're pixel sniping, you're gonna see this little detail right here. Let's try to paint that back in. Or marquee is still there. Boom, boom. There we go. Blend it in a little bit more. Looks good. Okay, now I've been putting it off, and I'm gonna address this right now. So I'm gonna bring down. First off, let's just see how that works out. And I'm gonna paint in that mask with the curve. Just to see the effect. It still bugs me. Still bugs me. Okay, so I think what's bugging me is the lines. So I'm gonna blend in these lines. Let's go with a flow of like, I don't know, 16. There we go. This may not work, I don't know. We'll see. Just want to get rid of that line. No, it's not working either. Maybe this curve isn't really... What if we just went even hotter? No. Yeah, I think just, now that I'm looking at it back here, I think it's fine. I think it's fine if I just add a little bit less. I think that's fine. I mean, it's naturally how it was, so it works out with the lighting. You know, I can drive myself insane and deal with all that, but I think I'm just gonna keep it that way. It's my art. I'm gonna keep it. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I'm gonna crop this. My main focus is to keep the symmetry so we can see that it is not symmetrical in the background. So let's try to crop that in. There we go. And I want the skull. I don't want it dead center. I think I'm gonna have the eyes on the upper thirds. And majority of the time, I'm gonna have to crop the lower part anyways, for, you know, different social medias and stuff. They don't like to you to have 2/3. But there's enough information in the PSD for me to expand it or not. But now that we have our background dealt with, I'm going to move and center the skull. Boom. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna take off these grids. Or the guides. There we go. Okay, so almost there. I think what I'm gonna do, what I wanted to do was to do some highlights and shadows for the eyes. So I feel like they're being lost a little bit. So I'm just gonna try to bring in the highlights right here just a little bit more. So that way it looks a little more apparent that they're eye sockets. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna back this off. I'm gonna delete this layer. I'm gonna go find the skull with no paint on it. We're gonna do a clipping mask. Create clipping mask and soft light. There we go. All right, there we go. That way I'm not spilling over onto the background. I don't have to worry about that. In fact, I might make that a little. If I painted black, there we go. Let's see. Let's bring out this eye socket a little bit more. Still looks a little weird. I think I need a little more definition up here. I'm very tempted to take it from over here. There's that nice. Oh, this really sells it. This one really sells it as cutout. Why is this darker than over here? Oh, it's under background. Okay. I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna steal it from over here. Just copy it, and no one will know. Copy merge. Whoa, hello. Get back there. That was weird. Why are you... Oh. Group. There we go. Okay. Flip horizontal. Yeah, it just really defines that. Can we not? There we go. It really defines that eye socket. So I'm just going to manipulate this just a little bit. Yeah, that makes it 10 times better. Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to darken the background just a little bit more. Maybe a lot more. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Because I feel like the vibrancy of the background was really just keeping you from, it was being too distracting. I think by dimming it, still has that pattern I'm looking for, but makes the skull pop out a lot. That looks pretty good. Now, I think to tie it all together, I'm going to do just a little bit of fade, kind of give it a little more mood. Maybe just a little more overall contrast. Bring out those highlights a little bit more. I think the skull could use just a little more contrast. Okay, so we're doing clipping mask. Clip that to there. I think there we go. And then let's bring out some of these highlights. That looks nice. Okay. Maybe that was just a little bit too much, so let's bring that back a little bit more. And I'm going to define just a little bit more right here. In fact, I might add in hue and or not hue, saturation. Shadow. Blend layer. There we go. Words. Let's go flow of 9. Just paint in these highlights a little bit more. And then I think that shadow, or not shadow, that groove. Just want to define this little notch. Define it just a slight tad. Define this little area a little bit more. Same here. Just going to darken it just a little bit. Finer brush. Just trying to give it a little more texture here and there. Maybe add in a little more highlights in the, oh, I'm only affecting the skull right now. That's okay. I'll do this to the paint layer too. So this is looking, just a little bit more over here. Whoops. This is where it was being lost a little bit more. Get some detail right there. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing, but just overall. So I'm going to go just do the paint layer. I'm going to focus on that. Try to make this define a little bit more. This line right here. These shadows. Beautiful. I don't like that one. Let's see if we can cut this area. Maybe we can, yeah, there we go. Try to darken. I really want to define that paint. There's highlights and shadows right there within the paint. I'm just trying to showcase that a little bit more like that. Darken it a tiny bit more. Yeah. We're pretty much there. I like this. Okay. I think it's done. I think I like it. I think I like it. This is what I had in mind. I don't know, past month. I've been toying with this idea. It's nice to see it's finally done. So that's it for this one. I'm planning on doing some more of these. So there's going to be a series of skulls. So the next one's going to be vastly different. So if you keep your eyes out on that, this is going to be if you missed a lot of the live stream, I'm going to be posting this to my YouTube channel. So Jay Sutton Photo, if you want to look that up. Also, I'm going to be posting this onto Instagram, and you can buy a print at jsuttonphoto.com. This will be going up in the next few hours. So if you actually do want a print of this, it will be available. Thanks for sticking around. Have a good day.